Ladies and gentlemen, it's me, Kurt Gronowski, publisher of Yankee Tea News, coming to you once again from my favorite spot, the Parkway Diner in Stamford, Connecticut, on this Monday, February 9th, the year of our Lord 2026. Well, my senior executive producer with the gray hair has told me to talk fast. So that is what I'm going to attempt to do because his battery is only on 20%. Does anybody remember that famous scene from True Lies? Just saying. Okay, first of all, Betsy, 2026.com. Donate, donate, donate. She needs our help. If anybody is a bold and strong candidate, it's her. It's too bad she got in a little late, but we're in for Betsy, okay? And one of the things that she talked about here, just to show you, all right, could the Connecticut income tax be repealed? There was a time when we did not have an income tax, ladies and gentlemen, and we have states that still don't have an income tax. Now, of course, this being a liberal dipwad publication, of course, had to drag in some economist who's been studying the Connecticut income tax for 40 years. That sounds like a pretty boring existence to me, but nonetheless, 40 years of studying the Connecticut income tax, and he, of course, is skeptical because now we won't have anything else to study. Gee, what a shame. Okay, but there are models to think about. Betsy's putting herself out there a little bit, but it's absolutely worth looking at. So I just want to throw that in there. One other news item that really infuriates me, okay, is from the Post today, right here. Okay, so you can see, because of the new mayor's rules, his warmth of collectivism made it impossible for this first responder to help this poor homeless woman out in the cold. Ridiculous, but there you go. What a hypocrite, what a liar, but that's what New York City voted for. What am I going to say? Okay, meantime, hot off the wires. I mean, before I even had a chance to react. Put this one up, Eric. Okay, so let's just paint the picture. First, Maduro is taken away, and now they can't supply any more oil to Cuba. Meantime, a harsh letter goes out to Mexico, and they can no longer supply Cuba with oil, and that puts it in this situation. Well, ain't that something? So let's see what happens in 24 hours as far as airplanes getting in and out of Cuba is concerned. They'll come up with something. I believe it. Anyway, okay. So some of you are hopefully watching based on the promotion that I sent out earlier today. And for those, I'll just remind you and the others watching, I got 3 big issues I want to talk about tonight, okay? The big Taiwan what if, Epstein and nuclear technology, and the new election fraud scam that's coming, okay? So we'll get to those as quickly as I can. And before that, I just got to throw out a sidebar. The sidebar, no, this is okay, is that, you know, as these 3 million documents have been released about Epstein, we have all kinds of weird stuff coming to the surface. And certainly one that's gotten some people's attention was that in 2018, before he, maybe died in prison, we think, possibly, that he ordered 6 55-gallon drums of sulfuric acid. That's around 300 gallons of sulfuric acid. Well, doesn't that make some people suspicious? All right. Well, I'll just leave you with the thought that sulfuric acid can be used to, clean up pools. It's an alternative to chlorine and to silver. So yeah, that's a possibility, but it's one of those things you can look at sulfuric acid as being, shall we say, dual use. All right, so that's a sidebar. I had to throw that up there. Meantime, the op-ed. I want to get through that quickly. The op-ed tonight is protecting the Democrats is a major industry. So the nature of the, all right, first of all, I want to get through the examples that I put into the op-ed, all right? There are selected examples of where we can point to the media as having done the best job they could of covering up for the Democrats. Dare I remind you of the Hunter Biden laptop? Dare I remind you of the Russian collusion hoax? Dare I remind you of COVID? Dare I remind you of election fraud and all that has been done to try and downplay and divert people from the facts of the matter? And then, of course, now we have Somali fraud. And in each case, you're not going to find the media engaging in any finger pointing. Whatever pointing they're doing is they're pointing away from the guilty parties. So, all right, you know what, since I'm in a hurry, one other point I want to make is that it's very, by the way, I need to remind you, if you have not seen it, and the link is in the article, you had the case where there's a video about 2 minutes long that shows how local news stations all around the country use the exact same script, all right? If you didn't see it, you gotta see it. It will shock you. My wife didn't even know what to think. She had never seen this before. To people like me and my senior executive producer with the gray hair, we're not surprised at all. Okay, but there you go. All right, so this lays the foundation. If you have a media that is so completely controlled that they're all reading the same talking points at the same time, there's a credibility issue. Can I just say that? A credibility issue. And with that credibility issue in mind, now we have to wonder, well, what happens when you have contentious issues like this where I'm going to say it, the Democrats are responsible. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so this is just the beginning, and I'm going to go out on a limb and to say to you that what is going to happen following the raid of the documents at the, the Fulton County Election Board, however that plays out, in my view, we're going to find Democrats basically fighting for their lives. That's what it's going to come down to. So, you know, by the way, you have to understand, and they were upset, maybe reasonably so, to actually have the Director of National Intelligence on the scene there, cell phone in hand, to make sure the FBI was doing its job is a whole other discussion. All right, so let's just move on, get in the move on side here. Okay, it's supposed to be this week. I hope it's this week. You may or may not be aware of the SAVE Act. Okay, the SAVE Act is supposed to institute long overdue reforms on how elections are run, starting first with requiring every state to require photo ID. Okay, some states already require it and some don't. So, as a little tidbit that I just want to throw in real quick, when Obama got elected, there were 8 states that did not have voter ID. Obama won in every single state that did not have voter ID. All right, so just chew on that one for a while. Next, all right, Schumer, he was acting nutty. All the Democrats have been acting nutty over the SAVE Act. Oh, God. Let's see, what's the other part of this? Yeah, so look up the SAVE Act. That's all right, and I got a link to it. The draft of the legislation, it's there on the website, so you got to go check it out. Okay, this is critically important. The Fifth Circuit has upheld Trump's request or call for mass deportation. So, of course, you had the usual liberal people, dipwads all, trying to interfere with this, but he's entitled to do it. There is nothing, ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing that President Trump is doing that was not done under Eisenhower or anybody else who had to get illegal aliens out of the country. But we can have that debate. Maybe somebody will come along. All right. Meantime, I'll just mention another article. Mass arrest of the ICE protesters in Minneapolis is a good start. I believe the number was 43, 49. You remember what it was? It was in the 40s. So that's just the first round. All right, so let's move on. Next thing is that Trump has called for a June deadline to resolve the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Sounds nice. all I can say is stay tuned. I don't know if the two parties can come to agreement on something like that, but it's interesting to impose a deadline. It's funny he's picking June because that's the month of his birthday. Anyway, now, I do need to spend a few minutes and try to keep it brief. Once again, I know we're getting tired. It's boring. We've heard too much of it, but here we go again. More about Jeffrey Epstein, okay? Now we have something from InfoWars. Some people may or may not like InfoWars, but others have reported on this. From the 3 million pages that have been released, was found one that announced Epstein's death a day early. All right, so some people say, well, there's a logical explanation, and yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But you know what? A day early, we've heard this stuff before with the Kennedy assassination. So I'm just mentioning it. The link is there. Go have a look at it. Meantime, while we're chewing on that, here's the real fun. The real fun is the announcement that the unredacted files are going to Congress. Oh, really? So all the folks in Congress, all them there Congress critters, are going to get to read every little dirty detail in the those files. Well, 3 million pages is a lot to read, or 6, whatever amount it is. But I'll make a simple prediction. When you are putting what would be regarded previously as sensitive documents in the hands of, what should we say, 30 times, it's, with all the staffers, it's got to be a couple thousand people. There will be leaks. You can count on it. There will be leaks, all right? So what was the other hot item here? Okay, well, so there's a little comment there from Elon Musk. You know, Elon Musk has been associated with Epstein, yet he makes these comments. The link is there. All right. President Trump did mention another person who's been funding the anti-ICE protests. That's Reid Hoffman, another billionaire, also associated with Epstein. It gets crazy. Okay, I had to put up a link. This is always a sore point with me, ladies and gentlemen. You have constant indoctrination of students in schools. We've seen the worst of it now with these ICE protests where they're having second graders walk around with protest signs like they understand what they're doing. This is insane. All right, while that's going on, okay, I have a couple other points to make, yes, about the ICE protesters. You knew this would happen. You knew this would happen. So, Eric, did you catch the one about the whistles? Okay, early on, so let's say a couple weeks ago, there was the bright idea to use whistles to alert people that ICE officers were around gathering up illegals. So, toot toot, tweet tweet, tweet tweet, get the people out here, tweet tweet. Right. Okay, all of a sudden, another liberal gets the bright idea that, hey, that's not such a good idea. Those tweeting things, that's just another expression of white supremacy. What? I'm sorry, I've lost track of how these people think, ladies and gentlemen, but there you go. So they do something and they start to eat their own. And speaking of eat their own, did you hear about the dildo wars? No? You didn't hear about the dildo wars. Okay, the dildo wars. So it turns out it was a like-minded, friendly protester who drove up in a pickup truck with a sign in the back that said Nuremberg 2.0, and he had a sign he was holding up and said, for those who have eyes so you can see. Somehow, the protesters thought he was against them, and they began to pelt his truck with dildos. What good is that? I don't know. Was it supposed to embarrass people, humiliate people? I don't know. Anyway, the video clip is there, and to see this truck getting hit with all those dildos by people who think he's the enemy when he's on their side, it just tells you everything you need to know about them. Okay. Meantime, Washington Post. Will they ever get their act together? So here you go. You have Jeff Bezos firing 300 of the reporters. I believe it was a third of their workforce. Then, because the CEO was celebrating with a party after they got fired, Bezos fired him. Is that pretty good? I like that. Okay. Meantime, okay, you've heard me carry on. We're good. You heard me carry on and on about how bad AI can be, how it can give you false information. Well, we have the latest. AI creates fake Australian vacation resort. We actually had people who found out information about a supposed vacation resort on the internet, and they showed up. They showed up in Australia looking for the resort that didn't exist. Why did this happen? It's because the people who lived in the town were trying to attract other people there and using AI, so AI told them, have a resort, so it creates a fake resort online. Is that brilliant or is that brilliant? Okay. All right, just a quick mention, guilty behavior by the Democrats because they're concerned about ICE being at the voting polls in November. That just shows that their voters are illegal. Just had to throw that in there. Then there's a deportation. Mass deportation is the next crucial phase. So the Fifth Circuit upholding Trump's efforts at mass deportation is a good sign, but I don't think the fight is over by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, we're almost there, almost there. Look at this, oh my God. So I have this link up. I'm going to choose this as an example. On Wall Street, you had the AI startups raising huge amounts of money, but now what are they doing? They're passing their investment money across to each other. So there's no real growth in investment. And so the argument is that we have elements of our economy that are like that, where money's being packed back and forth, but there's no real economic growth. It's crazy. Meantime, I want to remind you, listen, Tina Peters, we have not forgotten. Governor Polis, somewhere, something has to break. I have got to believe it. Something's going to crack, and then you go, gee, I wish I'd done this sooner. So rather than thinking about doing it sooner after you create the problem, do it now. Do it now. And the last thing is the Food Additives of the Week. I put up a couple of links about the whole class of synthetic food dyes. Okay, so this has been one of the high priority items for our Secretary of Health, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and it's a good thing because there are health risks definitely associated with these synthetic food dyes, and there are what we'll call natural alternatives to consider. Maybe the orange won't be quite so orange, maybe the cherry won't be quite so cherry red, okay, but it's going to be healthy. And on that happy note, I'll see you next week.